Hey everyone, welcome to it is the end of March and we are doing our special social distancing episode of the monthly Rideshare podcast. As you all know, the world has gone crazy and we want to continue doing the show and we wanted to make some changes. So we are practicing social distancing. We're doing it remotely from our homes. We're not in the same room. Oh, now that I think about it, absolutely nothing has changed on this end. Maybe this just becomes a weekly rideshare podcast for the indefinite future. I don't know. But anyway, hey everyone, this is Kevin the Apptrepreneur, and joining me today is Drive Girl Drive, Cecily. Say hi.
Hey.
And we have Mark from Mark's Travel Time.
Welcome, everybody.
And we have a special co-host today. I forgot his name, but he's from Dustin is Driving.
It's that one dude. He needs to be smack-a-bitched.
Yeah, I hear that. I hear that a lot. Now we do want to take a moment before we go. We kind of alluded to this in the last couple episodes, but your driver Mike he sent us an email, polite email, of course. You know, we're all friends still. No one's mad at one another, but he's kind of lost interest in this, and he wants to move on. He's doing other things, so he will unfortunately no longer be part of the podcast. We did want to do a goodbye episode, but he just wasn't into it. So, we'd like to, of course, take this moment to thank him for being a part of our little group. We definitely enjoyed having him. However, the show, as they say, must go on. So we are going to, for the indefinite future, be having some rotating co-hosts. And, you guys can vote in the comments below if you like the co-host and whether or not they should stay long-term. And then that person needs to decide if they don't mind doing this for free, basically. Because, we're apparently all out of a job now that the virus is going on. So anyway, Justin, thank you for joining us today. I'm sure everybody knows who you are, but, in 30 seconds, what's your channel about?
I have a channel?
You have a channel?
No, my channel is pretty much the same as everybody else's, except I have the biggest collection now of real dash cam footage from other drivers on crazy things that has happened to them and perfect examples of how riders shouldn't act and even some of that drivers shouldn't act. Yeah, it's pretty much the real world of rideshare.
Yeah, and I do want to add that unlike what some people say, Dustin is Driving is actually the true #1 source for rideshare information in terms of numbers. So we just want to throw that out there.
Well, I still never say I'm #1 or anything. I mean, I have the most views, so I could claim I'm the most watched, but I'm not arrogant enough to say that like I know more than anybody else and everything else, because we all know this isn't rocket science stuff. But I will say, everyone's great out there. Everyone's definitely great. I'm just glad to be a part of the family.
All right. Well, we're glad to have you here. So our first topic today is going to be a little bit of a not that we haven't been making videos. In fact, a lot of us have been making way more videos than usual because we're in the house. But just in case someone only listens to our podcast, how has our life changed in the last couple of weeks, and what are we doing to pass the time? Mark, let's start with you because you're the travel guy. So I sense your life changed quite a bit.
Yeah, I took my last flight a week ago Friday. I was out to a couple places. My last airport I visited before coming home was LaGuardia. I did some what I thought were pretty interesting videos because even that week, so now that's 2 weeks ago, I was getting on planes that were half full. I was getting first class complimentary upgrades. You could shoot cannons off in major airports like Detroit and LaGuardia. So, you could, Ray Charles could have seen this thing coming. And did people, I don't know, I'm probably going to have a little different attitude because I don't know that I think all of this was necessary. I think people are doing a pretty good job of staying away on their own without having, a government telling them they have to do so. But other than that, I'm doing like the rest of us. I'm inside. I'm doing some retrospective videos. it's getting kind of harder and harder to talk about rideshare because every single story out there is the same.
Hmm. Yeah, no, I hear you. So you doing a Disney marathon yet?
Watching or videoing?
Watching, like just like, hey, now's
You
a
know,
great time to just go from
I
Snow
had
White to Frozen 2.
2 trips planned in April, a week, each of them a week apart, to Walt Disney World.
Oh, good
So
luck
I
with that.
kind of suspect that that's going to be done.
Yeah.
Hey, Mark, was it true that a flight was cheaper than a roll of toilet paper?
Well, you know, they were easier to find, that's for sure.
Wow.
Awesome. Cecily, what's your life been like since the creepy crud, as I'm calling it, hit the airwaves?
Well, a friend of mine got sick long before everyone else started to get sick. So when I saw how he fared through that, then I got ready in terms of getting, like, you know, the disaster preparedness stuff. So I was able to get everything before people start going to the stores and stuff. I started a new job around that time, and we didn't stop working from the office until a day ago.
Oh, wow. So you're just settling into being home all day, huh?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I was still out there. Luckily for me, I'm able to walk to work. But seeing a lot of people just, walking as close to you as possible, not really being mindful of what they touch or what they're doing. There's a lot of people where I live that haven't really, to me, it doesn't seem like they're really that serious or really assess the gravity of this. So I found myself being more careful, not only for myself, but for other people. As far as, like, relating and talking to drivers that I know, I've been in forums and talking to people one-on-one. People have questions, they're seeking guidance. Like, it's kind of hard I've had a woman ask me yesterday, she's in her 70s, and she's like, I need to drive to eat. And do you think it's safer for me to use Instacart? I'm getting these kind of questions all the time. And
we're going to talk about that for sure.
It's hard to not, I'm speaking from the place of, like, number one, I'm not judgmental of who has to be out there, and I'll defend anyone's, choices and as far as what they need to do for themselves. I can respect that, but I just see a lot of things that are happening to drivers in this community, whether they're getting sick or they're just, getting a hard time from their relatives or just random people on the internet. Like, that's the stuff that really has bothered me.
Mm-hmm.
I have to totally agree with that too, because a lot of people are like, well, you're helping spread it and everything else. And it's like, well, you know what? We're not paying their bills. We can't tell them not to work. They can't guarantee the government's going to back them.
Absolutely.
I mean, thankfully today we did just find out, hours ago, that it did pass finally, at least a stimulus package. And now, Trump said he was going to sign it and everything. So hopefully everything still goes according to that plan. And a lot of people have some kind of relief. But let's face it, I mean, like, what, $1,200 or $1,500? That ain't enough to cover most people's rent.
Nothing.
I'm saying? Not even talking about car payments, insurance, everything else, food.
Right.
It's
yeah, so I know exactly what you're saying on that. And it's hard to tell somebody to go out there and be like, hey, you shouldn't pick up people. It could be more dangerous than going to a grocery store. But honestly, it's the same thing. If you're exposing yourself at all, that's the risk. So then you have to realize, is it worth the risk? And it's just hard to tell people that anything at all. And that's why I had people get mad at me, because I made a video, said they need to shut Uber and Lyft down. I flat out said it, that they need to do it. A lot of people got mad at me, like, well, what can I do in the meantime? I'm like, well, I know a lot of people didn't have backup plans and stuff, so I had to give them something else, like Instacart. You know what I'm saying? Or DoorDash. I had to give them something else, even though I still said, here, you can do this, but I still recommend you don't if you don't have to.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, but it's like, it's
right
hard
now
to tell people to close everything down and not
Dustin,
give
right
them
now the
something
topic
to
is
do.
how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm sorry. It's just when she said that, I know exactly how she's feeling, because I mean, I had to go through like 50 emails of that just today alone, and it's like, it's mind-boggling.
Oh, it is. I agree. So is the cabin fever getting to you yet, though? I kind of sense it is.
Man, I feel like, you know what? Right now, it feels like an AA meeting. You know what I'm saying? We're sitting here like, hi, my name's Dustin, and I'm trapped in the house. I've been quarantined for over 20 days. And it's been by self-quarantine, but the simple fact of When everything started going down, we realized, I mean, thankfully my wife already works from home. She don't have to go anywhere. That's why we moved to Jersey. But me, thankfully, I mean, I had backup plans. You know, I have passive income and everything else, so I don't have to go out there and do anything. And I'm in a fortunate enough position that when I sold my house in Florida, I still have that money, you know, for a down payment on another house. But if I have to use it to live on, well, so be it.
Mhm.
But and then having to deal with the kids, we've now been teachers. Schools have been shut down here for over 2 weeks.
Same.
And I've had to become the teacher for all the kids and
Mhm.
make sure all the programs are working and everything else, and things are crashing. So I am stressing to the max. And then people ask, Dustin, why are you still sitting in your van if you're not driving? It's like, because this is how I keep some sanity. Get away from everything and be able to talk and
Right. Yeah.
vent, because being stuck in the house, we try to take a couple walks when it's not raining and stuff, but I don't know, even then you see people out there, like you said, not caring if they go to walk by you and stuff. They're all like
Right
there's
up in
plenty
your
of
face,
room.
smiling and shit. I'm like, if you don't get your
Yeah.
ass away from me.
And it's like, and you have like 20 feet. It's like you could at least be 10 more feet over. Why you gotta be
honestly
like?
think a lot of people are assholes and territorial, and they're like, because I'm sorry, I'm not sorry. I'm outside with my mask on, and I'm looking at you like any of you guys could be carriers. So no, I'm not making eye contact. I'm not smiling. I'm going about my way, and I'm holding my breath as I pass you. And I'm trying not to walk into your air that you just breathe. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not playing with any of you guys. But I'm like,
So
you know what I'm saying?
Dustin,
So it's too much.
Dustin, am I hearing you say that your kid's future is dependent upon you being their teacher?
All
Oh,
of
we're
them.
screwed. We're so
Thankfully-
screwed.
I might have to give the wife the whole, basic credit on that, because she's the one that knows how to do all those programs. I don't know all that stuff. So all I do, she gives me a list and shows me what to do, and then I just do what she says. So basically, it's in the wife's hands. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna give her full credit on that.
Oh.
I just do as I'm told.
Oh, good. I feel a lot better now. I feel a lot
Me
better.
Me too. Because if it was me, I mean, within the first week, I was so frustrated. I was like, you know what? You guys just hold back this year. Screw it.
Well, anyway, for my end, I've kind of been joking like, I'm an antisocial, so this is actually working out pretty good for me. But I'm starting to itch for old things to come back. We and my wife actually went to a drive-through movie, a drive-in movie, The Invisible Man. I've never been to a drive-in theater before, but that was how desperate I was to get out of the house at one point. So, but overall, we're doing good.
Movie?
Finally finishing up Game of Thrones. We'll probably marathon the extended editions of Lord of the Rings. I'm actually reading some books. I got a whole novel read this week, The Cuckoo's Calling. So I'm making the best.
Oh, if you guys want a good one, that new one on Netflix just came out like a couple days ago. It's #1 right now. That lion or the tigers guy or whatever. Oh, you guys, I'm sure one of you guys had to see it. I forgot the title of it, but it's something about the tiger guy who owned like 200 tigers.
Yeah, it's trendy.
Yeah.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, we watched. There's like 7 episodes of it, and we watched 3 of them last night. It's pretty crazy.
I am 10 episodes into Containment.
Oh, I already saw that. Was a good one. That's a good one right there.
Oh.
I watched that actually when it came out in November, which was kind of funny. It came out right before all this happened. I'm not saying anything, but
you watched Contagion in November?
Yep.
It's you know what's funny? So this is called Containment. That's on Netflix, but I saw Contagion in January. So Contagion's the one where they have what's her name? I don't know. They have all those stars in it. Yeah, they have all the stars in it. You see from patient 0 and how it moves around. Yeah, so between the two of those, I'm over it. I'm over all of it.
I saw that movie 8 years ago in IMAX, and it's interesting. I actually own it. It's on my shelf somewhere, but So,
that means you guys are going to go ahead and have to watch Outbreak too. I watched that too because that was just like, that's kind of fun.
Contagion's a little bit.
While we're at it, why don't we just watch Walking Dead and really get ourselves worked up?
I've already seen all those.
I have to be honest, I don't like The Walking Dead. I've tried.
Oh, smack a bitch for Kevin.
I do not like that show. I'm sorry. I think.
Well, that's because the series died like 4 years ago. The network just didn't realize it.
Good point. So anyway, we're all doing pretty good in high spirits. Then that that's good. I'm sure our viewers want to know that, we're still having fun. But now, of course, we have to ask like a question. We've all been getting this question, and we've been getting it so much we even started talking about it before it was even time to start talking about it. But, with the creepy crud in the air and the potential danger of how easily it spreads, it has been brought up. Should drivers actually drive? Should Uber and Lyft shut the app down? Is food delivery safer? I mean, it's a whole complicated thing because from Uber and Lyft, yeah, they should probably be taking some responsibility and shutting the apps down, but then they don't make any money. For that matter, people who are driving, we want them to be safe. I think we would all prefer everyone stay home, but some people rely on this. This is their only income. So are we really anyone to tell them not to drive, and is food any safer? We already have like a hint of what Dustin and Cecily thinks about this. So, Mark, you get to start off twice in a row.
Tell him what he's
Well,
Tony.
I kind of think this is America. And in my 127 years here, I have never seen anything this ridiculously extreme. If we would have been, this wimpy back in the 40s and 50s, no one would even know who Jonas Salk is, because all we hear about is how the politicians were bickering on whether or not polio was bad or good. I think, hey, let people deal with it. If I want to stay inside and keep myself protected, I'll do it. I'm going to take reasonable precautions. I'll wash my hands. I'm not going to let some guy who looks like he's all six sneeze on me. But on the other hand, I don't want to kill the economy because some people are a little hypersensitive about a disease. I'd mentioned before we went live here that I've been reading a study from a couple of doctors in Stanford, and they're suggesting with some pretty relevant evidence that this thing is probably more widespread than we think it is. And it's probably gone through a whole bunch of the population already, and people just didn't get really extreme sicknesses from it, And as a result, their conclusion is that the death rate is far, far lower because the only people, they're not measuring the people who are contagious. They're only recognizing the people who have tested positive. And there's a big difference between those two populations. So I thought that was really significant. I'm trying to stay away from the news media, and Dustin said the same thing. What's coming from the CDC, what's coming from the scientific community, not what's coming from the news media and the politicians, because I don't trust them one bit. So do I think we should be driving? If you want to drive, I say go out and drive. If you feel safe sitting in an Uber car with that driver, well, that's on you. That's my take on it. I think that's, this country was founded on risk. We would be speaking German right now if we never took risks, and tried to take back France. So that's my take.
Oh, okay.
So when's the last time you were in an Uber?
Me?
Yeah.
It's been a while. But I'll tell you, I
just wanted to know.
I was in a rental shuttle at LaGuardia probably 10 days ago. And, that probably sees a lot more people in it than one Uber car.
Mm.
That's true. Well, you got lucky then, right? You rolled the dice and won.
Or maybe I already had this thing and it's been in and out of my system. Who knows?
I mean, that's true. I know I haven't been sick yet this year, so it ain't got me.
I've been sick, so I wonder myself if I caught it or not and didn't realize it. So, Dustin, what do you think about that? Should people drive or not?
Well, since I did make a long spiel about it already, I already made a video. No, I don't think people should drive. I don't think people should deliver food. I think people should actually take it a little bit more serious, just for the simple fact of, like I said, from what the CDC said, and even what Mark just said right there, a lot of people probably might have had this beforehand and we might not even known. So what about those deaths? Nobody counted those deaths either, because they obviously weren't tested because we didn't know about this then. So I don't know. I have to say, if you can, stay home. If you have to go, you have to do what you got to do. But should you? No, you should stay home.
All right, and Cecily, think we know where you stand, but we'll let you talk anyway. We'll let you talk. We all get a chance to talk.
Thank you for allowing me to talk. I don't tell grown-ups what to do. People ask me questions. I still give you a unbiased answer. If you ask me what I would do, I would give you my answer. So there's levels to this. I just got into a fight with a bunch of women in an Uber and Lyft forum for women yesterday because I said I respect the women who, it's an all-women group. I said I respect the women who've made this decision and everybody else can mind their business. About 5 or 6 women, keyboard gangsters came after me and started saying all kinds of stuff. And I was like, you can keep typing to your heart's content, but nothing you say will sway the women that have to do whatever they need to do. And these support forums, there were supposed to be places where people could go to air out their feelings and get support. And now places where people are trolling and shaming drivers that are still on the road. And I'm sure these people have their own guilt, their own issues, family members, what have you. Why would you even add to that? So if anyone wants to know how I feel and this offers any sort of comfort, I think that you watch the news like the rest of us. I think that you have assessed the risk of getting sick versus the risk of losing everything or being able to feed your family. You know what I'm saying? It's a choice that you make.
Oh, okay. I agree. That's a good position to have.
On top of that, it's like, I want to say that, Joe Blow doesn't have the ability to tell people to stay home. I mean, I feel like that energy should be channeled to your politicians and to somewhere else. If you want to force people to really assess the gravity of this and everyone stays home like a real lockdown, then tell your politician.
No, actually, that's a really good point. And by the way, it's interesting that you call them keyboard gangsters. I call them keyboard warriors because warriors when they say something in the comment section and they're really going to show us. I actually would think the comment section should be for discussion myself, but whatever. Now, my opinion is pretty well known. Although ultimately, I do agree with everyone. It's your own choice if you want to do this or not. But I feel pretty strongly people should stay home. And maybe it's just because I'm in a very interesting position because I wasn't taking it that seriously when it first started. And then that's when my wife's doctor said, gave her like a note and said that basically she had to work from home and any immediate family members need to stay inside as well. And I was kind of like, well, but why? That really has been lethal for elderly people and people with weak immune systems. And Kay was like, well, I have Crohn's disease. And I'm like, yeah. And she's like, it weakens the immune system. It's like, oh. Kind of like that it's kind of like that moment where you go from like, this isn't that big of a deal to me to, oh, it just got real. And
right.
It dawned on me like, because I've seen the news. Most of the people who die have weak immune systems, and it's not just that. It's right now. It's getting into hospitals. Right now, doctors are actually discussing whether to have a universal "do not resuscitate" for this situation because they just have too many people coming in, and they have to make a tough choice like that. So, even though I have to begrudgingly say that since we're still in America, we need to obviously defend people's rights who want to go do it. I think it's pretty irresponsible and it's pretty stupid, to be honest, and that's my personal opinion, although I will come around to what Cecily said. Shaming people will not, necessarily do anything. So
yeah, no one should be shamed at all. If they got to do what they got to do, then that's how it is. Nobody should be shamed.
Right.
No one's
and I totally agree.
No one's sending any money. Like, it's just like, I was in an Uber 2 weeks ago. I had to go somewhere, and that was the mode of transportation that was available to me at the time. And I just feel like we're all adults. And I feel like when you tell someone, oh, you shouldn't be doing that, it's just highly disrespectful. Like, you don't know what I have to do. You don't know why I made these choices. You don't know what kind of experience I have. Like, it's just highly disrespectful to make a decision based off of what you think you see. And that's the last thing people need right now.
Well, I
agree. And that's what I even said too, if they're going to do this lockdown stuff, they should, the only way to really solve it is, have everything closed, nobody go anywhere for 2 weeks and get it done with. I'd rather suffer for 2 weeks than suffer for the next 3-4 months.
Yeah,
I
I'm
agree with
kind of,
that.
I'm in that same boat myself. Part of me is like, I wish they just shut it down. But then that does bring the bigger question. And Cecily said it perfectly. Like, we need to talk to our politicians and our companies. So now you have to kind of look at Uber, Lyft, DoorDash, and because here's the thing, they are making their services available still. I mean, they have removed Uber Pool, which to their credit, that was definitely a good first step.
Right, without having people complain about it.
Right, and they did it without people having to complain about it. And you know, hey, a little half glass full thing. I've actually been pretty happy about with most companies' response to this, where it's like, hey, the movie theaters, they shut down. It's like it's too big of a risk. Disneyland closed, and it's like bizarre to think. Now, granted, they probably also don't want someone to get sick there and be in a headline. I acknowledge that, but hey, it's still the responsible thing to do. But Uber and Lyft and DoorDash, they have not shut their apps off. They just have it, and they deem themselves essential business, which I agree with. I hate to say, but I agree with that. They do provide essential services, but still, since this is highly contagious, and since the whole basis of it, the very least, the driving is you pick people up and you drive them around, and if they're infected, they infect you, and then you infect how many people? It's crazy how fast it spreads. So then the next question comes: should we maybe be directing anger towards Uber and Lyft and tell them they need to be responsible and shut down, or is that going too far? So Dustin, we'll start with you on that one.
Well, so that's a tough one because, like, even like Cicely just said too, like, you can't really tell people what to do. You can only tell them what you would do, and no one forces us to actually go out and drive. So it's hard to sit there and say it's Uber's fault for people going out there to drive, even though they're leaving the services on, but they're giving people that option. No one's forcing them to. Now, what I think is just like, a good gesture, I would like to say on their part, if they really care, if ever wanted to show that they truly consider us partners and that they care at all, they would just help drivers out regardless if they get sick or not. You know what I'm saying? That's the main thing. But honestly, I don't think we can blame Uber and Lyft, because if the government's not telling them to shut down, it's not like they're going against what the government's saying right now.
No, they're not.
So, and they technically are essential to some. Like Cicely said, her only mode of transportation was taking Uber. Some people are in that boat, and that's what they have to do. When you got to do what you got to do, you got to go do it. So it's like a double-edged sword right there. Some people are going to blame it either way, and others are going to think the same way. We're independent contractors. No one tells us when to work, where to work. So, yeah.
Right. So, Cecily, do you concur, or do you have differing opinions on that?
I mean, I think slightly. I feel like, I think we're all in the same family of opinions, but the problem I have with Uber and Lyft is you're real quick to say I'm not an employee and not offer me benefits, but I'm essential. You know what I mean? And
that's a good point.
That's just like, it feels like an abusive relationship to me. You don't want to give me what, you don't want to give me a title, but you want to give me, you don't want to give boyfriend benefits. You know what I mean? It's just like, who am I to you, really?
Oh, and hey, on that note, like 8 months ago, wasn't Uber saying drivers was not essential to their business?
I was just
now
thinking
we are.
The same thing. I was
All
just
of a
thinking
sudden,
the
I'm
same thing.
essential. Like, get out of here. Secondly,
There
I
should
feel
be
like
some hazard pay.
but secondly, like, even just working like as an actor, so in times where we are working on sets where things are kind of like dangerous, like we get what's called hazard pay. You know what I mean? So it's like you get those extra bumps just in case something happens. And just saying that if you are diagnosed with COVID sorry, we saying the word, we're diagnosed with the virus,
I guess we are now.
Okay, whoops, sorry, are told to self-isolate by an official is not enough. There are thousands of people who have been told by their doctor to self-isolate, quarantine, whatever the words are, and that's not enough for Uber to actually pay. There was a driver who had to shame the CEO to even get his benefits on Twitter. That's not going to work for everybody. So if someone shows you an official something that says this person might have pneumonia and or COVID, that should be enough. A doctor's note should be enough, and it's not. So I still feel like though they rush to try to offer a solution before they look bad, if you just peruse the internet, you see so many people that are sick and down and not receiving benefits. And
and they don't
you
even
say
want to give those.
something, you can say something, you get shut down. Like if I say I'm not feeling well, I think my passenger has it, then you are immediately deactivated.
And I don't know if you watched my video yesterday, but like they're not even just giving up those benefits willy-nilly. Like you actually have to agree to some terms of service that reclass where you say like, oh, by the way, I am stating right now I'm an independent contractor, which, you know, I know some people are going to say, look, we are. And it's like, but that's not the point. The point is if they're doing this out of the goodness of their hearts, it sure seems like there's a strings attached. Like we want you to agree to something.
No,
say this.
They're trying to prevent any litigation later on.
Yeah, it's for litigation later on.
That's what that sounds like to me. It's like, oh, okay, you're not an employee. We'll help you this one time. This is this one time only deal, but you can never sue us or say you're an employee again.
Right. I mean, Uber is like, and maybe, I don't know, maybe that's going to become like a bigger conversation during all this. I kind of see Uber as being very opportunistic this whole time, which might lead into the next story. But before we do any of that, like, Mark, you, what do you think about all of this?
Well,
you know, quiet.
Seeing, once again, we're seeing Uber's true colors. I'm not hearing quite as much out of Lyft, and where's Trip on all this? But anyway,
Trip has found a great way to fight the coronavirus. So, yeah.
You guys didn't hear about their next like 10,000 second?
I don't know. They had a live stream or something last night. I wasn't there. I missed it. I guess I won't be driving for Trip for the next month. But as far as Lyft, I think we're seeing a lot of things. You know, they are using this thing. It's what did Rahm Emanuel say? You know, never let a good crisis go to waste. And I kind of think that's what's happening right now with Lyft. They're looking at this and saying, how can we spin this into good PR for us? And it's very unfortunate that people cannot read between the lines as to what's going on here. You know, I'll give you two examples. One was they're saying that they are going to support their drivers financially who acquire the illness. Well, first of all, they know that that is probably going to be a minuscule, actually, I think it's probably going to be a pretty high number, but I think very few of them are actually going to get tested.
Well, for the record, one person who did get a check from Uber after they blasted the CEO on Twitter got about $2,108, if I remember correctly. That's what
I'm not saying they're not getting the money. What I'm saying is for the amount of money that they're going to pay out, the PR, if they would have to pay for the public relations person to create this type of a PR campaign, it will cost them a lot more than any, you know, a couple $100 here, a couple $1,000 there that they're actually going to pay individual drivers. So they can make it look like they're magnanimous and they are big-hearted. And in reality, I think it's just trying to say, look, ain't we good people? And another place where we're seeing that is now with, where is it? With Dara. And Dara gets up there and he says, oh, I'm really talking to, you know, congressmen and senators, and I want them to pass a law so we have to take care of drivers. And I'm calling BS on that one. Because number one, he knows regulation is not going to pass. And number two, he knows that if he wants to provide support to drivers, he can do that. He doesn't have to wait for a law to go in effect to be good to people. You know, since when has goodwill and being a humanitarian been contingent upon a law being passed to say, I can't be a good person until I'm legislated to do so? It's just crazy to me.
Honestly, that's something they're very comfortable with being. So maybe he does need the law because he's always on the other side of some sort of fighting the case, you know?
But there are CEOs for companies that have actually deferred their payment or cut their salary so they can take care of the employees. So yeah, why can't Dara make some sort of similar arrangement for the drivers who were not essential a year ago, but they now are very essential?
I mean, that's true. They never needed a law to keep dropping rates at all. So
no, they didn't. They just did it. So yeah, no, I was like pretty. I've been pretty. I'm always frustrated with Uber, like, you know, but especially now, it's like I'm reading through the lines. It's like, yeah, you're changing the story again. You're saying, and you're begging for help, and you always do this whole thing like, I mean, here's the thing. He says like we're leaders, like every other CEO, like we're leaders in our industry. Although Uber is actually in the unique position, they are the leader of this industry, and he's basically saying like, oh, well, we need Congress to do something. It's like, I thought you were a leader. Like, lead, lead.
Well, the other thing that I question on this whole deal is, didn't he say he has something like $10 billion in reserve to get him through this?
Yes,
I was
he did.
just about
Where
to
did
say
that
the
money
same
suddenly
thing.
come from? This company that cannot turn dime one a profit suddenly has $10 billion in reserve. I can tell when Dara is lying because his lips are moving.
Yeah. Well, and let me tell you, let me.
Well, you know where they got the money from, right? That's where they got the money is all the autonomous vehicles and all the other stupid projects they're doing. They probably just cut the funding to those for now. They're just going to divert it, and they're like, oh well, we spent. And all they did though is really tell us on how much they're spending on all that other crap to begin with.
Yeah, well, and I know,
but they need that other crap, because that other crap is what looks exciting and sexy and gets spotlights on it, and it attracts investors.
Right, and I also think he said that because now we're doing more stock stuff on my channel, but Uber is what some people call a speculative stock. You buy into it and you speculate it'll change the world, but you don't actually know if it's going to do that, and it certainly doesn't have a viable business model as it stands. And so that's why the Uber stock soars and sinks on anything he says. So he says things, and we can't verify if it's true, really, and you just have to kind of take it for word. So he says like, oh, we're going to be profitable by the end of the year. It's like, well, the numbers don't really suggest that, but since it's a speculative stock, I guess if we believe in this company, we believe that statement. And now he says, oh, we've got $10 billion in the bank. Well, numbers have shown this, you've been losing money, so I guess we have to take your word for that. It's
anybody buy any stock when it tanked $15?
Oh yeah.
If you would have done that, which you said you did, right? If you would have done that today, I'm just checking, and it is currently at $27.28. You would have almost doubled your money.
Well, I almost doubled my money by buying stocks that I like and also went up just as much. I bought Disney, Coke, did some space, and Virgin Galactic Holdings. So yeah, no. When the market tanks, that's when you want to buy, and so I'm recouping some of my investments. I actually even did rebuy my Uber and Lyft stock, and it's doing good now. I'm probably going to sell it soon because it's not going to be doing good for very long. But that's my opinion. So anyway, so we all have a pretty good idea where we are. Like I think most of us would appreciate people not driving, but they're adults. We can't force them to do anything, and of course that service is available. So, and they do have essential businesses. I mean, one person did say this, I'm just going to say this before we move on, but it's like they had like a very interesting comment where it's like, maybe Uber and Lyft should only be available for people who need to go to the hospital. And I said, I know what you're saying, but you have to understand that once you make that the requirement, I mean, really, who wants to drive at that
point? Exactly right. I'm like, nope, that's a cancel.
Yeah, that's a cancel. But this is, strangely enough, not even like the worst thing about Uber and Lyft keeping the apps open, because, and this is kind of interesting because we're gonna have to get a little political now, and so if any unpopular political opinions happen to pop up from any of us, please don't hold it against us. These are trying times. If you don't want to hear political opinions or anything, now's your time to leave. But there's a stimulus package, and it's not going to fix everything, but it might help slow some damage. I think most of us agree with that. And of course, whenever there's a stimulus package, everybody starts walking up for a handout. They all come with their best case scenario, like this is why we need some money, and then the government basically decides who gets money, who's really affected. Like, for example, some Hollywood studios have actually come forward and they've asked for money from the stimulus package, even though they should not have to have that money.
$25 million to the Kennedy Center.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. I don't know how they settled on that number, but okay. So I'm a little surprised that so far there's only been 2 gig workers, to my knowledge. This might have changed since we started talking about this, but there's only 2 companies that have asked, gig companies that have asked for bailout money. And that is Uber and Airbnb. And that was like, first of all, I thought that was interesting that Lyft and Grubhub, who is a publicly traded, they're publicly traded companies too. I'm kind of surprised Postmates hasn't asked for money for their drivers or anything like that. It's kind of interesting that we're just hearing about these two right now.
Well, you know what, Kevin, now that I think about it too, as you say that, they're not asking for it because right now their business has doubled. Yeah, I mean, DoorDash, Instacart, all their businesses, like, they're making money now. Like, if they weren't making money then, they're making money now.
Yeah, but Disney's asking for money.
Uber's
Disney's
been
asking for money, so
Uber and Airbnbs, they're used to burning through money. So now they're like, oh no, our logs are getting low. What are we gonna do?
Yeah, but Disney asked for some bailout money, and they're still selling movies digitally and merchandise through Amazon. So it doesn't really matter whether you need the money or not. It's like companies typically just make a case for why.
This is the first I heard that Disney asked for money. That's a hoot.
I never would have thought Disney would have asked for money.
Well, I'll tell you why. It's because they strained themselves. They had a cash reserve of like $35 billion, and they spent that cash reserve buying 20th Century Fox and then borrowed like $35 billion on top of it. So hope that was worth it.
I would have thought Disney Plus would have just made them a bunch of money because I know I got.
Oh, Disney Plus is going to lose money till 2024. They built their whole business like, okay, Disney Plus is going to lose us money for 4 years, but it will eventually make money. And then, then this happened. So they were going to use the theme parks to pay for Disney Plus, and that didn't work out at all.
Wow, surprised they're losing money.
Yeah, I'm a pretty big Disney fan, and I pay attention to their business holdings, and it's like they got themselves into a little bit of a mess. But basically, the government said no because you're Disney. Which, good for them. But
they're like, make a movie about it.
Hey, yeah, they can make a movie. You've got a 20th Century Fox label to put it on.
Wow.
So anyway, these two companies are asking for bailout money, but they're doing it very interestingly, and this kind of feeds into the whole like I think Mark is right. They're trying to buy more positive PR than anything. They're not doing it on behalf of their company. They're doing it on behalf of the drivers and the people who are renting out houses on Airbnb. That's who they're doing it in favor of.
I have to say before I forget, Kevin, you guys do realize there'll be a movie about this year. This will end up being a movie.
Oh,
everything that's going down. 2020 will be a movie.
Yeah, of course it's going to be a movie. We can get Steven Soderbergh, who made Contagion, to direct it. It can
I just had to say that after we talked about the Disney. I was just thinking, I'm like, I could see them making a movie out of this year. I can see it.
Yeah.
First, they'll make a cartoon, and then they'll make the live action if it's Disney, right? Because they're trying to always get a twofer out of their scripts.
That's true. And then they might make a cartoon and then a real one as well. Yeah, that's 3. Plus a Broadway show. Yeah.
and they can double dip on that script because fun fact, some people ask, why do they make all the live action Disney movies? And it's like, well, for 2 reasons. One, they make money, but the second reason is animation writers are not part of the Writers Guild America. So when they reuse the scripts from the animated movies, those writers don't get royalties.
Oh my God.
Well, I've also heard it had something to do with maintaining copyright for a longer period of time. I don't know if that's true or not.
No, not really. That doesn't have much to do with it because that's a new.
It's messed up though, man. The writers should always get paid.
Well, anyway, I sense that people in our chat are like, well, some people in the chat like the Disney talk. They like that. A few of us are nerds at heart, but let's start. Well, we'll probably focus mainly on Uber because I don't think do any of us do Airbnb really. Like,
No.
And
I'm not gonna stay in some rando's house. This sounds like
and that's kind
Jason
of like
movies.
And that's kind of like a weird situation because it's like people are renting their own properties out. So I don't know if Airbnb even has the authority really to be asking for money for them.
What do you need the money for?
well, if
oh no, someone's not. I mean, you would think right now all their places are probably booked if people are locked down and have to stay home.
Well, the argument is that people bought houses to do Airbnb, and now those houses are not being rented out, and they can default on those payments. Although,
that's your fault. You bought the property just because.
Yeah, that's just the property owner. That has nothing to do with the Airbnb.
Yeah, I know.
Exactly right.
I mean, I'm definitely leaning towards like Airbnb should have stayed out of this. If people wanted to buy a bunch of houses with the intention of doing something with their property, you know, that's frankly their fault, I think.
It's
But
like telling house flippers it's their fault. You bought the house to flip.
I don't
You
buy
bought
it. I don't think they really care about those people.
oh no, they don't. Like I said, they're trying to like Mark said, really. They're trying to buy good publicity, but with Uber, they made like a very interesting request. And actually, Mark made a video about this, so he'll probably be repeating himself to a certain extent in this podcast. But if you haven't watched that video, then, well, that's one of the reasons we have the podcast, where Dara Khosrowshahi, oh, it's disappointing. I was hoping to hear the music, but oh well.
You mean kamikaze?
Yeah, the dun dun dun. But anyway, Khosrowshahi, when he wrote that letter asking for the bailout, he didn't ask for money for Uber. He asked for money on the workers, and specifically, he wanted unemployment benefits to be extended to them. And as Mark pointed out in another video, Uber doesn't pay into unemployment.
Yeah,
So
they don't.
it's kind of like they have a lot of galls to be asking for support in that area. And
Right.
even doubly so because if they have $10 billion in reserve cash, maybe they should be taking care of their drivers.
Absolutely.
They now claim
That's what I
essential.
said in the video I made about that too.
Yeah.
Dark
So,
kamikaze writes a letter.
yeah, so I think the only one who didn't make a video about this was, maybe I'm wrong, but Cecily, I think you're the only one who didn't make a video.
Not on this topic. Nope.
So why don't we hear from you first about what you think, what you thought of. Do we need to reread his letter? No.
That was
Everyone knows what's in it?
No, I don't. Not off the top. What do you want me to reply to specifically? Like just what was said or his intention?
Yeah, that was kind of what I was hoping for. Well,
I don't need to read the letter to know that it's a crock of you know what, and it's a Southern expression. I really think that, do I even need to preface it this way? Just use the money that you have to take care of your drivers. It doesn't make any sense to ask the government to help the people that you refuse to help over and over and over, year after year after year. Your first offer to help us is to turn to the government and not to your own bank account. Come on.
I totally agree. That was the best thing to wake up on Monday morning was reading that funny letter.
Come on.
Yeah, so
try harder.
So specifically what it said, this wasn't very long actually, thankfully. It was, I respectfully and urgently request that the economic stimulus you are considering, along with any future legislative measures in response to COVID-19, include protections and benefits for independent workers, not just employees. My goal in writing to you is not to ask for a bailout for Uber, but rather for support for the independent workers on our platform and, once we move past the immediate crisis, the opportunity to legally provide them with a real safety net going forward. That was like the main thing. And then he did add a paragraph later on how now might be a great time to change the definition of what gig workers are and create a third classification. So never let a crisis go to waste indeed. Cecily's making this funny face. I don't know if anyone can see it because I'm talking right now, but she's like shaking her head. She actually kind of reminds me of my wife when she gets mad. Like
really?
Yeah, she shakes her head and twitches her mouth and frowns. It's like,
that's hilarious. I'm just so disgusted for people. All of the time that they fought all these cases and saying that we don't deserve benefits, we're not employees, we're not essential to their business, and this is what you have to say. It's just still a slap in the face for all the people that have helped to make this company rich and to pay your salary.
Yeah.
And not to mention, they said that now that this goes into place, and pretty much it has passed, that
Trump signed it. This is breaking news. It just hit. Trump signed it. It's 2.2 trillion.
No, 2.2. But we knew it was going to happen. He already said he was, but that's cool. Now we all know for 100% it is signed. So,
but these are separate things.
We're going to get no.
But we're part of the stimulus package regardless, whether we're independent contractors or not. They're basing it off of past tax returns. So It has nothing. Our current designation has nothing to do with whether we're going to get the money or not. And unfortunately, a lot of people that haven't filed tax returns or folks that were minors and things like that, they don't get any money.
No. Well, I filed my tax return, thank God. Dustin.
But no, I was going to say now they also said with this going into play that that their legal standpoint on whether we are employees or not could definitely be in threat of becoming employees now that this has gone through. I mean, we'll have to see. Obviously, they're going to probably fight it later on and everything. But it's the simple fact that now that can come into play. Like, oh, look, well, they got unemployment. Only people that get unemployment are usually employers. You know
Oh,
what
do
I'm
you think
saying?
Uber shot themselves in the foot by requesting this?
Well, they
Exactly.
already
That's what I'm
shot them.
saying.
I think they shot themselves in the foot when they offered benefits for those who are self-isolated
Yep.
or diagnosed, because you are essentially offering sick pay, and
Which
sick
means you're
pay is
taking
something
blame.
for
You're acknowledging it and taking blame in a way.
yeah.
You know what I'm
So
saying?
I think I thought that they shot themselves in the foot at that point by offering benefits somewhat. Yeah, you think we're employees, bro.
Yeah.
That's what we're going with.
You know, Uber's response to this has been, well, Uber's response to a lot of things are really bad, but like watching them deal with this virus outbreak is especially funny because at first they were like, okay, here's some advice to protect from the virus. And then it got worse. And they're like, okay, if you're feeling sick, go stay home. And they're like, okay, well, are we going to get paid to stay home? It's like, oh, no, you don't get paid because you're not employees. And it's like, okay, well, we're going to keep driving. And then it's like, well, shoot, that doesn't look good. So now we got to offer like 2 weeks pay. And then it's like, oh, but then they're going to start asking for unemployment. So like, okay, let's write to the government and say, hey, we need money. Hey, they need to be part of the unemployment thing. It's like I think they're floundering personally. I don't think they know how to react to this. And this is going to come back to bite them in the long run once
Well, I
precedent.
don't think a lot of companies really honestly knew how to react. And that's why this bailout is going to be in place, because so many companies are just like, no, we haven't never had anything shut down like this. You know what I'm saying? The government or the Congress is shut down and all that crap. But we've never had anything like this, since, at least not a lot, since I've been alive, that where everything went down this dramatic and this harsh and everything else, and so much panic. And it's just crazy. It's a crazy time to be here right now. And like I said, this will be made into a movie at some point. This will definitely probably go into the history books, you know, but like,
Probably.
it's definitely crazy.
For those of us that make it, right?
The what?
For those of us that make it.
For those
Oh,
of us
that's
that
true.
make
I know. I'll be one of those that make it. I ain't stuck in this place.
I think a lot of people.
What did you say, Mark?
I think there's a lot of assumptions going on. I don't think the stimulus package is about giving people money to make a month's rent or pay off their car payment. The purpose of the stimulus, first of all, we got to remember that's our money.
To stimulate
this money
the economy.
isn't. It's not because politicians are so generous. We paid for that. That's our money. Secondly, a stimulus package is not so I can pay my bills. A stimulus package is just what the name implies. It's to try to stimulate the economy, because we are in such an ugly place right now. We are at risk of not only getting into a recession, but getting into a depression. So the whole idea is just to try to activate and get money flowing. Now, about Dastardly Darrell, I help myself. People talk about being employees or being independent contractors. I can't argue with them too much, because I've been saying for many years now, and I've been consistent on this, I kind of agree with them that there probably needs to be a third category. The world's different. Just because, in 1923, they decided that there should be independent contractors and employees doesn't mean it has to stay that way for the rest of history. I think there might be an opportunity, but you can't make that retroactive because you find yourself in a tight spot right now. And finally, this whole thing about making us employees, there were YouTubers who were going named that were getting up there and pontificating, oh boy, wait until January 1st, you're all going to be employees. Follow me, boys. And here we are almost in April. And I'm not going to name any names, but there was one YouTuber that always said it's not going to happen come January 1st. I'm not going to tell you who that YouTuber was, okay? So anyway.
Why is everyone always talking about me?
Yeah, right.
It's always my fault.
The whole point is there's a lot there's a lot going on here. And I think people just look at this, I know that people probably get sick, but I try to pound it into people, on my channel, that you gotta look below the surface at what's really happening here. And usually the reason people say they're doing things is usually not the reason.
Right.
Kind of like I'm not doing YouTube to make money. If I was doing that, I would be one of those people with my tin cup out trying to get money from the government.
Well, but we do all have patrons, I think. So, just.
I make money on YouTube. I mean, everybody knows that.
You're the only one here that does.
What? Well,
No,
I
make money on YouTube.
I make money on YouTube. Not as much as I used to, but I do make money on YouTube. So, Mark, you're the only one who doesn't make money on YouTube.
I think I pay money. I think I have to pay them in order to put my videos on.
Man.
Or maybe more collabs. I don't know. I actually, by the way, noticed that the years that I did like collabs with people, that's when I got more views and subscribers than anyone, because everyone. I think so. I don't know.
So Kevin's just admitted to exploiting us now for his money and views. That's cool, Kev. Where's my handout? No.
Yeah.
Hey, a fellow Coke Zero drinker. All right, you just went
It's
up
the
and down.
wife's. I didn't want to go into my Dr. Pepper stash. I'm running low. She's not.
I'm
so
not going
like,
to tell you what I'm not going to tell you what I have in the glass today.
I've got water.
I won't tell you what I added to the Coke Zero.
Well, and anyway, so that was a great discussion. Now Cecily did let me know in advance that she pretty much had an hour because she had a meeting to go to. So we have hit an hour and 1 minute. So we are going to wrap this up. I do want to mention one more little thing. Fellow UberTuber, Ulancy Peterson, who runs the channel Ride with Peterson, he's actually been on this podcast a couple times, one of the co-hosts. He unfortunately had a stroke, and so the left side of his body is numb. He can't feel it. He's currently in the hospital. We don't know of any GoFundMes or anything just yet, but we all kind of want to wish him the best of luck. We hope he gets better, and because we're there for each other. We want to be there for each other as best as we can. So just wanted to throw that out there. If anyone goes to his channel, leave some well wishes or something to that effect.
Definitely go over there and show him some support, guys.
Yeah. So anyway, Cecily has already left us, so we will consider her have said goodbye because she had her meeting. So Dustin, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, man, no problem. Thank you for having me. I might even go live now too. I don't know.
Yeah, well, we might. Well, after we go through the so yeah, if anyone wants Dustin to be like a permanent co-host or something, leave the comments. We'll be rotating the co-host for a little while, but then we'll kind of make a decision near the summer or something. So, yep, if you like his job, you know the drill, comment below and all that jazz. I know we're not doing the live answer question. It was just, like I said, we had too much on our plate today, but we will be going through the questions and we will answer some of the highlights in the next episode. And Mark, thank you for joining us. Have people, I guess the one thing I forgot to ask you is, are people warming up to Mark's travel times yet?
Things have been kind of stagnant. I think people are not recognizing that it's the same channel, because I did the name. So it probably was not a good decision, but I'm not sorry I did it because I didn't want Uber being attached to my name, quite frankly.
Yeah,
you can always still change it to something else if you're not happy with what you got. I think you still get a couple more chances, don't you?
Yeah, you got to wait. It's been 3 months now, so I could probably do it if I want to. But I don't know that it's a bad name. I just don't know that people understand it. Am I going to go back to Uber Hints? No.
No, and just make it like Mark's World or something.
Mm-hmm.
Survive. Or right now, since what's going on, put Surviving with Mark or something.
In the car with Mark.
Maybe I can call it Geo Chicago.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah. maybe Mark in the car. I don't know.
Oh, before we go, I have to tell you guys something. I picked up a new troll this past week.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there's a guy there, and he started asking some questions. At first, I thought that it was legitimate. I started answering the question. Then I realized, oh, this guy's just trolling, trying to. It turned out that he was another Uber tuber, and
Oh.
he's either trying to build up views for his channel, or one or two other people sent him in. But yeah, it's been a while since I have my own troll.
Yeah. Yeah.
Welcome
Well.
to the club. Welcome to the club. This
Yeah.
year,
Welcome
since
to the.
everyone's been depressed, we've all been getting it.
I'm
Yeah.
actually a little bit more surprised that the trolls haven't been more active, because if they were bored before, you'd think they'd really be bored now. But anyway, folks, that's where we are going to end the monthly Rideshare podcast, which again, maybe it'll turn to the weekly Rideshare podcast for a time being. I don't know. It depends how much cabin fever we get, but you know the drill. We want to know what you think about your thoughts on these topics. Dustin, should we have more sound effects courtesy of Mark? All that jazz. So you know the drill. Comment below, like, favorite, share, subscribe, and as always, flame responsibly. Have a good one.
Or don't. Flame responsibly or don't.
Hey, don't encourage them. Don't encourage them.